There was a nauseating Joe Scarborough clip this morning, but actually before that clip, there was another nauseating clip from the quote reporter at MSNBC. And I don't know if you noticed what this reporter said. I'm just going to play it and we'll get your thoughts. Colin, if you could just show the straight news reporter, air quotes, straight news.
You're not
and
referring to sexual orientation, are you? You're
Yeah, no,
trying
no.
to say he's a serious reporter.
The serious news reporter. I don't know his orientation. I don't care. Let's play this, Colin.
There is so much history to the Julian Assange story now. You have the 250,000 diplomatic cables that were leaked by Julian Assange's WikiLeaks. You have that engagement with the Russian military intelligence, the GRU, to leak those lurid conspiracy theories about the Democratic Party, about Hillary Clinton. You have those rape allegations in Sweden that were subsequently dropped. You have that period of time where he was holed up in the Ecuadorian embassy here in London. What is crucial about this extradition bid by the US is that the US is trying to see Julian Assange in court over charges of hacking, not leaking. So the charge is effectively that he worked with Chelsea Manning to try to hack Pentagon computers. Now, what this appeal battle is about whether US authorities can reassure British authorities that Julian Assange will be treated well enough in a US prison, whether they can rely on those assurances. Now, of course, Julian Assange's team and his fiancée, Stella Morris, say you can't. She's just put out a statement speaking outside the court. She says that this decision is dangerous and misguided, a grave miscarriage of justice. She goes on to say, how can it be fair? How can it be right? How can it be possible to extradite Julian to the very country which plotted to kill him? Now, that's referring to claims that they have made that the CIA during President Trump's time looked at the possibility of trying to kill Julian Assange.
You and I probably would recognize the same lies, so I'm going to let you touch on it first before I get into it. What he said several things that are just not true, never proven. So your thoughts.
All right. And remember, I'm a little bit sleep deprived, so it's good to have somebody else who can make sure that I don't neglect any of the more egregious lies. I'm not really trying to overlook anything. I'm just going to try to recall from my short-term memory here, having just seen this clip for the first time, what was said, and I'll work backward because...
And a reminder to the audience, Kevin's been up since 3 a.m. So
3 a.m. because I'm in Chicago, and that is where, so I logged into the feed and was able to watch at 4 o'clock this morning. It was 10 minutes, They didn't really care that much about the gravity of what they were doing. It was a quick in and out. And so if you watch that clip, I'll work backward. These claims about the CIA plotting to kidnap or kill don't come from the Assange legal team, actually. They come from the Yahoo News report. They come from Michael Isikoff. Michael Isikoff is a reputable journalist who has been on MSNBC countless times. So,
yeah, the wording that reporter used claims they have made that the CIA tried to kill Assange. So he completely whitewashes the fact that this is coming from Yahoo News. This is a pretty thorough report. I mean, I'll credit the corporate media when they do good work. That cited many former and I believe some active military CIA sources that Trump, Pompeo were talking about kidnapping and assassinating him. So they make it seem like this is just something rumors that the Assange camp is putting out there.
Yeah, and not just good work by the establishment media here. It actually lit a fire under many media organizations and got them to be interested in the 2-day appeal hearing that took place in October, which is how we got to this decision. We had to have 2 days where we heard argument on the grounds for appeal. So the other thing is, the thing that really hits you at the beginning there, that this is about hacking and not leaking. That this is about hacking and not leaking. Well, first off, of course it's not about leaking because Julian Assange can't be the leaker. He's not in the U.S. military. He is a publisher. I mean, people always talk about how he's a source or he's a whistleblower because they don't want to credit him as being a journalist. And then they end up making it impossible to really follow the details because you're confused about the role he played in the publication of documents. He's not the originator. He didn't have access to the databases. These were given to him, and then he published them. They are criminalizing the publication of documents. Generically speaking, many of the charges go after the publication of Afghanistan and Iraq war logs, as well as Guantanamo files. These are detainee assessment briefs on nearly 800 different detainees that were brought to the military prison in Cuba. War on terrorism prisoners. There's 40 still. They're forever prisoners. For the record, Barack Obama intended to close it, but failed. And now these people are just festering there and have been. And so hacking and not leaking. Well, no, he didn't hack any documents. He published documents, and the U.S. government is coming after for publishing those documents.
Now, let's get to Joe Scarborough, who, let's just get to him and we'll talk about it after.
But let's just forget the politics of this. As a prosecutor, you're given this case, and you've got a guy who's stolen thousands of documents, pages of highly classified national security documents, released them to the world, and in so doing, put the lives of U.S. troops, of people who were working with the United States, allies, collaborators in war zones, in the gravest of danger. Under any scenario, you take politics out of it, and this is an open and shut case. This is not the Pentagon Papers. This wasn't Times editors rifling through documents, figuring out what could be released and what couldn't be released and explaining it. This was a guy that got stolen documents and gave it to the world.
Your thoughts on that?
So this is like the Pentagon Papers. I don't have to give you my opinion. I have this ready. I'm going to tell you that PBS, back around when these files were released, did something, and they linked it to the broadcast of The Most Dangerous Man in America. It's a very good documentary on Daniel Ellsberg, Pentagon Papers whistleblower. And they compared the Pentagon Papers to these Afghan war logs. And at the end here, I'm just going to read what they said. Unlike the Pentagon Papers, which were commissioned by the U.S. Department of Defense, these reports are written by soldiers and intelligence officers. However, when asked about the similarities between the Pentagon Papers and WikiLeaks in a Christian Science Monitor interview, Ellsberg stated, documents look very familiar to me. Different places and names, but they are describing a war that is as thoroughly stalemated as was the case 40 years ago and more in Vietnam. That was more than 10 years ago in a conflict that is even more stalemated, I would say, when we withdrew our forces. They say that these troops were in the gravest of danger, or they say that Julian Assange put people in danger. I want you to know from my coverage of Chelsea Manning's court-martial that the U.S. government and the U.S. military, who were drawing from government agencies, produced no name of any single individual. They came up with no individual who was killed or maimed as a result of the publication of these documents. And it was frequently said that WikiLeaks had blood on their hands, but at no point did anybody ever put forward a person. And we would know them. If they existed, we would know them, because Joe Scarborough and Claire McCaskill would always talk about this person, about what Julian Assange did to them and how they died because of the publication of information on war crimes. So they don't exist. In fact, they lied. They made up something about the Taliban kidnapping somebody or executing someone. And then it turned out that it had nothing to do with the WikiLeaks document. And the judge in this case, military judge Denise Lind, forced them to take back a statement, to correct a false statement.
You know what's interesting to me, though? I didn't hear Joe Scarborough having any concerns when the New York Times published Donald Trump's taxes and who got Donald Trump's taxes. I mean, I have no problem with Donald Trump's taxes being released. I mean, should have released them when he was running for president. But I don't know. Wouldn't you guess that however the New York Times got Donald Trump's taxes, whoever gave it to them wasn't authorized to give it to the New York Times, right?